Okay, I am going to explain to you the problem is they have no idea why the magnetosphere is the magnetosphere. They think it's caused by some iron core. Absolutely incorrect. It's caused by electrons flooding the universe, literally, and as we spin through them, our electrons scrub against them, and eventually, yes, they will destroy literally all the particles. They'll stare at each other because there's a push to shove. Simple as that. That's what causes this. And when we get flooded with excess electrons in a wave, yes, we will exceed the normal scrubbing, and then we will see it light up, and then we'll have all different colored lights. That's what the auroras are. Okay, my friends, I got a dispute with Nagoya University talking about their research achievements in killer electrons strumming the skylights. Well, they don't understand that the universe is completely saturated with electrons and photons, and they push against our atmosphere that we hold against our Earth. What that does is makes Earth a generator, a literal generator. And what causes the generation is the spin through the particles, and as this Earth's atmosphere and its electrons scrub past these electrons, they rip and tear and scrub, and of course they're going to cause the ozone destruction. And I can show you this is a fact, what I'm talking about. They think it's an iron core. It's absolute nonsense. It's not the iron core. It is the scrubbing of these electrons to the electrons that are in space, and here is our Earth. Right here is our Earth. And it spins. You see it spin, 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 spin. That's what our Earth does. You have a North Pole and a South Pole. And what happens is the spinning inside here of this armature has fields in it. And when you put electricity in, it starts to spin because it's spinning against magnets. And that's the kind of magnets that, just like this, it sits right there. And that pushes against this field. Now, if I spun this by hand, it's going to make electricity. If I put electricity in, it spins. That's what a motor does. It's one way or the other. A motor is a generator, and I can prove it, and I will right now. There is a meter. It's on DC volts, and I am going to spin this, and as I spin it, you'll see it makes voltage. And if I spin it one way, it'll make a positive voltage. If I spin it the other way, it makes a negative voltage. It's that simple, and it's identical to the Earth. Watch. See that? 4 volts, minus 4 volts. I'm spinning to, see it? Minus 2 volts, minus 7 volts, minus 9 volts. Now, if I spun the other way, it's going to go plus voltage. And you won't see a minus, you just won't see anything. See, 0.72, 5 point something. And if I could keep this spinning, see, if I keep this spinning, it'll just keep putting electricity out. And that's what happens on the Earth. Now, so what does that mean to these Schumann frequencies and these strumming lights? Let's think about it for a second. All right, before we get into this too far, don't forget, we are in the Milky Way galaxy. That means we're on one of these arms, and we're spinning around in a circle. That means we're going forward this way, crushing through whatever is in front of us. This is a flat accretion disk. In other words, if you took this and twisted it this way, you'd see a flat plane. The center, though, you would see as a little bit bigger and very bright because it's forcing the material. As you can see, it's bending it back. If you were a mechanic, you'd fully understand this. If you pull back on this, as this spins, it's crushing everything here into, it's just spinning it into a circle and forcing it to compress on itself. And that's what causes these sounds. They say it ends up being a black hole. Well, I can tell you what a black hole is. A black hole is dark matter. It's not something that is so... We're going to get into this deep, but trust me, at this point, all you want to remember is it's a flat accretion disk at some point in time, and all of this is crushing together, and at some point in time, this whole thing may turn into a big, gigantic ball of matter, because it's forcing itself in. And I think that's what might have happened to the Earth. At one time it was void and without form and spinning like this and crushed itself and popped into a ball one day. Because they said there was no water on the Earth, and they even said if the Earth was flat. Now, that's an accretion disk. It could have been flat. I have no idea. But I'm going to tell you one thing right now. What we're doing now is scrubbing through this. And that means we are being ripped through particles. Now let me show you what the solar system is doing in addition to us being torn through the universe. Before I do that, just remember now, you see, we can cross paths with another strip of material as we spin. So we can go from weak areas that have nothing into dense areas where we have a ton of stuff. So it's push to shove. Wherever we go, we have to push it out of the way. We have to shove it out of the way. It's going to push back. That's what creates energy. That's what creates glow. That's what creates extra electrons being forced into other particles' regions. That's what heat is. And that's why we're overheated. Because we're scrubbing through the universe. It's forcing its particles into us as we scrub into them in a number of ways. Spinning through them this way, ripping through them this way. All right, don't forget, the sun is being ripped through the solar system this way. We have, jumped on board with the sun. All of our planets and so forth are being pulled through the solar system. I mean, in the solar system, but through the Milky Way. Now, so we're spinning on our own axis. We're going around the sun in our orbit. And we're going forward, rubbing this way. So we got a lot of interaction, but primarily all of this out here, everything, 100%, 100% is loaded with particles. Now, sometimes a particle on Earth that would be right here and would be surrounded by other particles that far away, the particle in space might be here and about 2 miles before you get to another particle. But there's going to be 100% particles in space. There'll be electrons, photons, sand, dust, every kind of thing, up into chunks of matter like this, as we know, comets and meteorites and all that stuff. So we have to rip through those. We're scrubbing, we're forcing electrons into all of the things. It's not just us that's getting heated up. And I don't see any way out of it, to be honest with you. There's no way we can stop these particles from invading us. And that's what's happening. They say it's greenhouse gases and so forth. Well, what it's doing is it's extra electrons. Once you force extra electrons, which is what it does, it crushes into their electrons, they come into us. We don't go into them. They come into our atmosphere. Now, we're going to leach them out a little bit, but not like they're coming into us, because we're just slamming into them. Now, the only other good news to this whole thing is that in an electron flood theory, 100% of everything is only made of electrons. 100%. So, if we have excess electrons coming into our atmosphere, that is possibly what makes everything grow, because we need extra electrons to make things grow. I mean, literally. Now, if we are breaking down all the things that were already broken down and stabilized and creating electrons out of them, adding to the electrons, which we are, fossil fuels, and they're fossilized, like a bone. You see that bone right there? You could burn that. Right now, every molecule, every atom electron in here is so close to each other that the whole thing weighs a bunch. Now, if I burnt that, it would fill this whole room with electrons. But they wouldn't be compact to each other, but they'd be filled. And it would give us more interaction against what we're rubbing through. That's the basic problem. As we burn things, our ball gets more and more compressed out this way because there's extra electrons in there. They're scrubbing through the electrons coming at us, so we're adding fuel to the fire, literally. And that means more scrub, more interaction on the surface out here, and the more fossil fuels down here means more electrons out there, means more force electrons into us. It just is a runaway train.